Is the great Mike Trout still a trustworthy player for fantasy baseball? Should we invest into Carlos Rodón before his return? Join us today where we provide you with the best players to trade for and away on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Sports Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino, here as always with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Arnett.
Yo.
You can find us on all social media platforms and podcasting apps if you happen to be listening on one like Apple or Spotify. And you can write a 5-star rating, give us a little review. I truly appreciate it. It goes a long way to help to grow the podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It subscribes you to the channel. Also gives you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Once again, if you're on YouTube, please be sure to like and comment. And lastly, but most importantly, please subscribe to us on the Subtext website. On Subtext, you'll be getting a one-on-one personalized in-depth experience with myself and Matt. We respond ASAP on there, and we have a lot of goodies if you subscribe on Subtext. Today's episode is brought to you by the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, and the lowest price is always guaranteed. Locked On Fantasy Baseball fans, we have a fully loaded episode for you today. As always, let us be your team secret weapon where we provide you with the best players to trade for and away. And Matt, we got one of the greats up first, my brother, so take the wheel.
Yeah, all right. So we're going to talk about Mr. Mike Trout, somebody we mentioned up at the top here. Mike Trout is, to be honest, really not playing horrendously, but not playing up to what we think Mike Trout should be, what he's been known for the last, decade. So, that's why we're bringing him up here. I think he definitely is a trade for because he's going to bounce back. I think he bounces back to that batting average of what he did last year of 280s. I think Mike Trout is still a solid player. He is doing his things with 5 home runs over the last month. He has 17 on the season, so it's not out of the norm. He still can go and hit, 40 or 35, and that would be an amazing season. I mean, there's no reason that he shouldn't get 90 to 100 runs and 90 to 100 ribs. The only thing that's missing from Mike Trout, honestly, that I think is gone for good is the stolen bases. Maybe he'll chip you in 10. He's not going to have those 20 seasons anymore. He's not going to have anything of the sort of that. But Mike Trout is just going to be, the standard, standard four and cusp 5 category contributor. I think those days are done. We haven't really seen, a 10 plus stolen base season since 2019. So it's kind of more proof in the pudding there. On top of that, I was taking a look at his Baseball Savant page. And if anybody's, familiar with Baseball Savant, honestly, his stats don't look anything different between his chasing, his exit velocity, his, swing speed, anything of the sort. Nothing looks out of the norm. There's not really even more than a hair of either lower or higher, because in some categories he's higher. So I think Mike Trout is just, waiting is like a sleeping bear ready to wake up and just go to town. And that second half may be where he does it. So I might want to get Mike Trout while somebody who's owned him and drafted him to be their number one player, go in and snatch him up. You're going to have to pay somewhat of a premium, but not the premium that you would pay a couple of years ago where he was a top 10 player and where, he's going to be that 5 category contributor. I think you could pay a decent price for him where it'll be fair enough where it won't hurt your team. And then when he takes off, it'll elevate your team to the next level. That's Mike Trout.
That was that perfect take. I'm just going to add that batting average. Mike Trout's a career 300 batting average. I think he hits a lot closer than that to 253. the Mike Trout owner sees the 253 batting average. They're probably a little bit upset right now. So it's literally a perfect buy low opportunity for Mike Trout while he's hitting like this. Over the past month, it's a batting average under 200. The past week, it's at 200 exactly. We all know who Mike Trout is. You know, he was dealing with that severe back issue from last year. You know, maybe it's still bothering him a little bit. He gets the All-Star break off, and I just think he's going to go right back to his old self. And, you know, as Matt said, stolen bases won't be there. Everything else will be there for Mike Trout, though. Let's move on to an arm, though, and an arm that I'm sure a lot of people are concerned about. Myself, a little bit concerned, not super, super concerned, but it's Cristian Javier. Javier had that monster breakout year last year. I know Matt and I touted him last year during draft season, during the season as he was breaking out, and we told you guys, hey, this is legit. But on the year, Javier, you know, the ERA looks great at a 3.25. Of course, 15 starts, 83 innings. The Ks are down drastically from last year with 77, and the whip is at a 1.12. So, you know, the Javier owner probably is a little bit disappointed, not super disappointed. But you know what? Being under that K per 9 is, you know, definitely an opportunity. That's where you're going to buy on him because I think that K per 9 is going to jump back up over, you know, like maybe not as good as last year with 148 innings, 194 Ks. But Javier stuff is elite. I think that he's, you know, one of the most dominant pitchers in baseball. And even if you look like over the past like 30 days, which probably has his last 3 or 4 starts in there, he's been struggling a little bit. So as I said, you know, Javier owner is probably a little bit disappointed right now. And that's when you want to strike. We're always talking about on the trade episodes, you want to maximize value. When a guy's doing bad, you know, the price is cheaper. When a guy's doing really good, the price is higher. So Javier, as I mentioned, over the last 30 days, 24 innings pitched, 2 wins, 13 strikeouts, 3.70 ERA, 152 whip. I think you can mix in a couple of these guys we're going to talk about coming up later, especially there's a young pitcher on there that's doing very, very well that I think you could start the trade talks with that guy and get yourself a Cristian Javier back. But that's my take on Javier. I think you buy low on him before, you know, he really rights the ship and starts to dominate the second half.
Absolutely great take, Dom. I don't really need to cover anything else. Love it. Let's move on here. Let's go to Mr. Starling Marte. Somebody I really wasn't too crazy about going into the season, but here's the thing. Now is the perfect time to strike and get him on your team. The reason I wasn't crazy about him was his draft price. Now I don't have to worry about that. I picked my team. Now I just have to go and acquire with either players I want to sell high with or players that are just I don't really care to have anymore. So Starling Marte is a great target. And if you missed out on stolen bases, this is the greatest opportunity you're going to have because before he starts really bouncing back, which he looks like this may be the last opportunity because he looks like he's turning it around over the last like 2 weeks with 9 runs, a bomb, 6 ribs, 3 stolen bases, batting 255. Even on the month, he's hitting about 18 runs, 2 bombs, 8 ribs, 7 stolen bases, batting 298. You know, he is a career 288. 288 batting average. I mean, last year he hit 292. So, I mean, sorry, on the year he's 258. Last year was 292. Little mess up there. I apologize. But my guy could get back up to that easily. He is a great batting average part. If the Mets start getting rolling, the runs are going to be there. The ribbies really aren't his thing anyway. He'll always have lower, but you know, being on that team, he can get 60 again. He might be able to get into the 70 range. And if he comes anywhere close to how he did in the power category, if he ends up with ending the season with 14, you're really happy because he only has 4. So if he hits 10 from now to then, you're happy. And hopefully they all come in September when it's playoff time. Honestly, guys, go out, try and go get Starling Marte. He would be a great source of stolen bases with 21 already on the season. So, you know, 100% go and try and trade for him with the best of your abilities.
Yeah, Matt, great take on Marte there. Just going to chime in that he's a strong in 3 categories, the runs, the steals, and the batting average. That 258 batting average is going to be a lot closer to his career mark of 288, as Matt mentioned. So now is the time to buy on Starling Marte. But before we move on and we talk about one of the Yankees' big times acquisitions from the offseason who, you know, hey, is the time now to invest. Then we're going to move on to guys that you need to sell high on. We got a guy on the Cubs that Matt and I have notoriously talked a little bit of, crap on the whole season, and a Boston Red Sox guy that, you may have heard of his name once or twice before. But guys, real quick, I got a great sponsor for you. Have you ever tried to buy tickets to see your favorite artist or sports team and wound up being stressed out by how much of a hassle it can be? Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. That's why you need to check out the Gametime app. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Using the Gametime app is super rewarding with flash deals and last-minute tickets, easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area, images and views from the seats you'll be sitting in, lowest price guarantee, and event cancellation protection. I mean, there's a reason it's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets and the lowest prices always guaranteed. Everydayers and new listeners, we've got exciting news for you regarding our podcast. Matt and I are thrilled to introduce our new campaign on the Subtext website, where we'll be offering a personalized and in-depth experience just for you. By subscribing to Locked On Fantasy Baseball on the Subtext website and becoming a member of the exclusive Everydayers Diamond Club, you'll gain unlimited direct access to us through one-on-one texting conversations. As part of the Diamond Club, you'll receive instant alerts and expert opinions on prospect call-ups, injuries, and detailed waiver wire recommendations. But that's not all. We'll also be promptly answering all your fantasy baseball questions and are here for you to talk about baseball whenever you want. Subscribing to our subtext service will give you a significant advantage over your competition and greatly increase your chances of winning that coveted Everydayers Championship. You can find the link to subscribe in the description of this video, podcast, and on our link tree, which is available in all of our social media bios. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity. Sign up now for a free 14-day trial with Matt and myself by your side. We'll help you bring home that coveted Everydayers Championship. Join us on Subtext today. All right, guys, I'm going to chime back in here. Let's talk a little Carlos Rodón. As you know, Carlos Rodón has been out the whole year so far after having a dominant year last year. Yankees signed him to that big contract, and hey, now is the time. Last I saw, he's already out on a rehab assignment, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Let me double check myself here.
He smoked it.
He is right now. Correct. Yeah, he tossed 4 scoreless innings in a rehab start on Sunday, had 4 strikeouts, no walks. He went up to 48 pitches, 36 of those were strikes, and he's looked really good through his first 2 starts. I think they need to wait Rodón at this point. This isn't a guy you want to rush back. You know, they paid him so much money with that forearm issue. Then he had a setback with his back. So, you know, hey, let's ease him in. You know, they signed him to a long-term deal. He's still only 29. Get a few more years out of him here. But now is the time to strike. Probably a last opportunity before he makes that comeback, or they announce that he's going to be in the rotation. And, you know, people remember how good this guy really is. If you don't remember how good this guy really is, I'm not even going to just give you last year. Let me give you the last 2 years for Carlos Rodón. It's a 2.67 ERA across the last 2 years for Rodón. 55 games started, 310 innings, 422 strikeouts, a 2.42 FIP, so we know that ERA is legit, an 0.99 WHIP, and I mean, the guy's just been absolutely dominant over the last 2 years. He finally broke out after, you know, being a highly touted prospect. I think Rodón, ace upside, top 15 pitcher upside, so if you can pay anything less than that to go get him right now, I think you absolutely make that move, and Rodón might be one of those guys that really, you know, brings a lot of championships to fantasy baseball players, and it could be you if you listen to us here at Locked On.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so here's the thing, too. You guys probably all know, you know, my rule when it comes to players on new teams. Carlos Rodón is kind of an exception to the rule over the last 2 years. He went from the White Sox to the Cubs, and that's where he started his big breakout campaign. And then
the Giants.
Then he went to the Giants after, my guy. Am I not?
He was never on the Cubs.
Really? Wow, I'm reading that wrong then? Hold on.
The White Sox to the Giants.
Oh wow. Okay. So my bad.
You're good. You're good.
I had a little fat finger action here. So anyway, let me get back to what I was saying here. When he went from the Chicago White Sox, I read it wrong, 100%.
You're good.
To the Giants, he instantly had those 2 years of breakout. You know, he's one guy that just kind of instantly gets in and says, "Yo, I'm here for business. I'm getting paid." So that's exactly what Carlos Rodon did. The only thing that honestly I think that's going to get in his way is the injury and working his way back. If he has another 2 starts where it's like, okay, wow, dude, like you're ready to go and keep smoking everybody, and he's about to get that call, then man, I'm gonna try and get him everywhere. Do it now before he really has a big move. And guys that are owners, you have 2 options here, and this is for guys that are either in a position of being in the top 3 spots and pretty much you think you're a lock moving forward, and guys that are on the cusp of whether they're going to make the playoffs or not, right? This is your push. So guys that are on the top, trade 4. Guys that own him that are trying to make the playoffs and have a few holes to fill, I think he's actually a good trade away candidate as well, because you could sell high on the insane value that he could have before he even plays an ounce of baseball, which then you don't have to reap the bad rewards, even though they're most likely will be good because you can get a haul for him. I had somebody in the Diamond Club ask me this question: who should I trade away? And I said Rodon before he gets back. You don't know what he's going to do. I mean, there's still an opportunity of flopping. I mean, he is only playing minor league players. So we shall see what happens. But Rodon has a lot of high upside that you can get probably a haul for. So, definitely take a look at possibly trading Rodon and trading away depending on the position you are in the standings.
Matt, real quick, before we move on, I want to do a little exercise here so we could help our fans out with this one, because I think this is a great name to talk about. Let's do a little name game. I'm going to throw a couple of names at you, and let me know if you were a Carlos Rodon owner, would you take these guys in return for Rodon?
Okay.
Let's start with one we talked about. Would you take, if somebody offered you Cristian Javier straight up for Rodon? You doing that?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so all right, let's move. Let's go a little bit lower here. Let's talk about, what about Luis Castillo of Seattle, who's kind of been up and down this year? You take Luis Castillo for
Rodon. Yes, because he's already done it this season, and whereas like, okay, he goes up and down, right? So like that's just Castillo. So he's going to bounce back and be solid. He's been solid for a couple of years, whereas Rodon's coming off that injury. I'm trying to get in the playoffs, so that's exactly what I'm going to do, is try and get a Castillo.
Yeah, I want to try and find a tough one for you here. Okay, this one might be a little tougher, but I still feel like you're gonna say yes. What about Blake Snell? Somebody off. I got the throwback Blake Snell on. Would you take Blake Snell too?
The way he's playing recently, absolutely.
Okay, wait. I have a good one for you, because this is somebody I know that you like a little bit. Then this might be. I might have found the line. Justin Verlander. Do you take Justin Verlander for Rodon?
That's toughy. I mean, Verlander.
There you go. All right, good.
Verlander has been so up and down based off of his, the major whatever injury he had. It's not major injury. It was like a major muscle is what they called it anyway.
The major teres. I believe it's in the bicep shoulder area, somewhere in that upper arm region.
Yes. So something along those lines, like that's a toss up. Like, here's the thing. He's coming off injury, whereas Rodon is also coming off injury. So at that point, I'm going to take what I can get, even though Verlander last year was obviously the way better pitcher, but he hasn't proved to then take the step forward and get past his injury yet. Whereas, who knows, Rodon might. So that's my line. Good names, Dom. Good names.
Gotcha, brother. You want to grab this next guy? Am I taking him? I don't know how you want to play this.
Yeah. Before we bring up the next couple of names too, and we bring up one last sell high, buy low guy, and then a bunch of sell highs. We got a little break here, and we'll be right back. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I know sometimes we have too many breaks in here, but hey, this is how we keep supporting the podcast each and every week. So let's keep going here. Let's talk about Mr. Max Muncy. I'll keep this quick. Max was on a tear from the beginning of the season. The only thing that wasn't there was batting average, but who really cares? Because Max really doesn't hit for batting average. If you really think about it, the guy is a career. Sorry, I had the wrong page up. I was back on the Rodones. A 228, and last year in 2022, he hit about a 196, about 191. So maybe he goes on a tear where he's just, hitting everything under the sun, but at least the kid has power. Like, I mean, He already has 18 on the year, and he's only had 209 at bats. And a lot of players right now are rounding the 300 mark. So Max Muncy really has shown out in the power category with him. I think coming close to getting a rehab, if not already having one. Working.
He actually got activated today. They activated him, like literally a couple hours ago.
Okay, so I didn't see that. So, Max Muncy is now eligible to play. You might want to scoop him up and kind of see if you can kind of snag him out. I think this will be the last time you can go and get him. So do it now with second base eligibility and I believe third. So, Max Muncy is definitely somebody you want to target.
Yeah, I think that batting average for Muncy, climbs up a little higher than 190. The last couple of years haven't been kind to him. I know last year he was dealing with some injuries. This year he's had the hamstring issue. He wasn't really doing great before he went down with the injury. As Matt mentioned, he started off hot and cooled off, but I think it might have been because he was banged up because, he did start the season on a tear. He has 3 seasons with 35 or more home runs in his career. So, that close to that 40 mark is definitely feasible, but, that's enough on Max Muncy. I think, we hit the nail on the head. If, hopefully there's still a little bit of a buy low window on Muncy. Let's move on to somebody that's been dominating, that he was in our, waiver wire ad segment a bunch of times this year, and it's Eddie Rosario, Steady Eddie. The guy is back. Last few years, like I said with Muncy, kind of these older guys, the injuries start to pile up over the years, and they're not their old selves anymore. But Eddie Rosario looks healthier than ever. I think he's been the top fantasy baseball player overall over the last 30 days. Let me double check myself. Okay, last 30 days, he was the 11th overall fantasy player with 19 runs, 8 homers, 19 RBIs, 345 batting average. Now, I'm not saying I don't like Eddie Rosario the rest of the way, but capitalize on value. That's what this whole show is about. Strike while the iron's hot. Get him, off your teams. Go out there, If you could do Eddie Rosario and maybe a pitcher or a closer for Mike Trout, I'm doing that all day long. Just trades like that. We just try and throw some names out there for you guys to kind of get an idea of what you're doing. If you have any deeper questions, hey, subscribe to us on Subtext, and we answer pretty much instantly. And we'll answer all your trade questions, anything that you want to ask us about specific players. But this show is just really to give you an idea of who's hot and who's not and how to maximize on that value. Eddie Rosario, once again, I do like the kid. I think he's going to be, good for fantasy baseball purposes the rest of the way, but I don't think he's going to be this good. So capitalize on that value. Sell Eddie Rosario while you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hey, if you can get a nice trade for somebody that you picked up off waivers, you did a good job. But great take, Dom. We're going to move on here. Talk about somebody I can't stand as a fantasy player. That's Dansby Swanson. He was one of our busts that we tagged as, hey, this kid is going to bust. And quite honestly, he started off hot. I got so much flack for saying, you need to sell high. This kid isn't going to be good. And, he was very much like a 1.5-year wonder. And he had 2 months now? We're back in June. He's just starting to heat up again. So, Swanson is doing his thing a little bit with 288 bats, 36 runs, 13 doubles, 2 triples, 8 home runs, 34 ribs, 4 stolen bases, batting 267. Quite honestly, everybody was talking about as if he was going to repeat, 2022, where he had the 25 home runs, 96 runs, ribbies, and 99 runs with 18 stolen bases, batting 277. That is not happening. I'm not buying an age 27 and 28-year-old breakout at that point. Dansby Swanson knew that he was about his contract was about to run out and he needed to get paid. So he did what he needed to do and played through some things and got some stuff done. Honestly, before that, and we'll discount 2020, he struggled to even touch the 20 home run mark. He really didn't have, honestly, up until even 2022, a season over 80 runs, a season over 80 ribbies until 2021. Other than that, it was 65, 59, 51, and then 77, 51, 59. Dansby Swanson, I think, is fool's gold. And honestly, with shortstop landscape being the way it is right now, I definitely say sell high on him because people are like, oh, look, he's bouncing back. He's going to do it. He's going to do it. And this is your selling point, right? You probably already picked up somebody to replace him while he was playing absolutely putrid. So do it now before he starts slumping again. So that's Dansby Swanson for you.
Yeah, Matt, great take on Dansby. I'll just throw out there your selling point, and you start with over the last 2 weeks, 350 batting average for Dansby, 7 runs, 2 homers, 8 RBIs. The Cubs have been better of late, but I think their, overall record kind of says that's kind of team they are, 37 wins, 39 losses. He's not going to get a lot of support in the runs and ribby department. So, Dansby Swanson, I don't think ever really gets back to where he was with the Braves. But, Matt, great take on Dansby. I really don't have much else to add. Let's talk about, a great young pitcher here. And people might call me crazy, but I have some evidence to back up my stance on this. And we're talking about Eury Perez. Now, I think Yuri Perez is going to be one of the best young pitchers in the league for years and years to come, especially Miami. Has, great mentor there in Sandy Alcantara, even though Sandy's not doing great so far this season. Sandy just still knows how to be a vet and, just pitch in general. Yuri Perez on the year, 5 wins, 1 loss, 1.34 ERA across 9 starts, 47 innings, 54 strikeouts, and an 0.97 whip. But once again, it's about capitalizing on value. What did I say on the same show about 2 weeks ago about Bobby Miller? Sell high. Bobby Miller wound up going out and getting spanked against the Giants. So not that I think Yuri Perez is going to get spanked around the way Bobby Miller has, but Yuri Perez is still only 20 years old. The Marlins are already talking about limiting his innings this year. He might get sent down sooner than later just to buy some time here. The most innings he ever threw in his career is 78 in 2021. He threw 77 last year. He's already combined through the minors and the majors this year at 78. So he's literally matched his career high at this point. So I think his max might be 130, 140, depending on how far they want to push him. And if you guys remember Spencer Strider last year, he started to break down towards the end of the season. We didn't have him when we needed him most in the fantasy playoffs. So and one more thing, Yuri Perez's FIP is a 303. That's the fielding independent pitching ERA indicator. So he's literally pitching about 2 runs under his FIP. So he might wind up closer to a 3 ERA than a 1.34 ERA. If you could take Eury Perez, turn him into Rodón, turn him into Javier, you add a little something else and you get one of those guys, you're doing very, very well. But I think I love Eury Perez, so don't get me wrong, but just maximize that value while you can and go out there and get guys that we know what they can do and don't really have a limitation to their season.
Yes, Dom, I agree and disagree with this take, right?
Yeah, of course.
So in Dynasty Leagues, this is not applicable. But in redraft and keeper leagues,
of course,
this is somewhat applicable. And keeper and redrafts 100% do this because, quite honestly, I don't see him making more than one more start until the All-Star, and then that's it until probably 2 weeks after the All-Star break. So in keeper leagues, if you feel you won't be able to make room for Eury Perez anyway, he is the perfect sell high, especially right now. Because you're going to get a haul and somebody probably isn't looking at the peripherals of, hey, he's already had so many innings, he's never pitched that before. A lot of average baseball fans and fantasy baseball players don't know that. So great point, Dom. I'm not going to try and repeat everything he says, but I just wanted to clarify here. In redrafts, 100% do it because you could get a Carlos Rodon, and I'd rather take the gamble on that than holding a guy on my bench that I'm not going to be able to play for about a month. So, definitely. Yeah,
I should have been more specific. You're right. I'm sorry, Matt. Yeah, you're right. That was a good take there.
It's all good. Don't let it happen again. Anyway, anyway, all right. We're going to move on. Enough Eury Perez. We've been ranting a lot tonight. Let's talk about Mr. James Paxton. James Paxton has been performing great. He is a great, sell high candidate for one reason and one reason only. His name, along with his bounce back, is what's going to do it for you. He is hurt right now, which may dilute a little bit your value, but quite honestly, with the pitching landscape that it is on the waivers in 10 and 12 man and 15 man leagues, you might be able to sell him for a decent price. An underperforming, Logan Gilbert, an underperforming Kirby, and you might have to fact check me on that one, but those are the names I might be targeting to move James Paxton. One, he's a waiver wire guy that I scooped up off the waivers and I'm getting for free. And 2, James Paxton can break down like a hoopty, like your first car. So, anything can happen with James Paxton. So I think that right now he is a great sell high candidate just based off of that. I rather him, implode on somebody else's team and get hurt like he is now, which is a knee injury, which he's still in the lineup. So I don't think he's going to miss a start at all. But long story short, sell James Paxton high and get whatever you can for him. Gilly, I think, is the best target for him.
Yeah, Matt. As you mentioned, I think James Paxton is still scheduled to make his next start with that knee issue, but that's what scares me the most is that we know James Paxton's injury history, and if you don't, James Paxton's injury history is extensive. He is definitely a phalanges guy, as Matt and I like to say out here. So, maximize that value on James Paxton, get rid of him before the other shoe drops, and, he winds up getting hurt. Chime in, my brother. Go for it.
So I apologize to George Kirby. I forgot all about his nice bounce back over the last month.
The K's are still down, though. The K's are down significantly.
But that ERA, I wouldn't trade him for the life of me.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So with that being said, guys, you know what, Matt? I think let's just call it here for the day. And guys, so once again, that is all for today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Also, thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. And if you want a little more in-depth and personalized experience, you have any questions for us that you need directly answered, or you just want to chop it up about baseball and say, hey, what do you guys think about this or anything, make sure you subscribe to us on Subtext. And, that's the place to be. The Diamond Club members are loving it so far, and we're loving having you guys with this little more in-depth experience. So make sure you, get involved with us on Subtext, and make sure you lock on for a new episode tomorrow where we're providing you with the best must-add players heading into the weekend. But guys, until tomorrow.
Peace.